In this edition of Ask Dan, we're going to be answering the question of how do I transport my sheep? Welcome to Ask Dan on the Grass-Fed Homestead. This is a series where I get questions from viewers. I do my best to answer them, and if I don't get quite the best answer for them, I'll reach out to an expert who can get them the answer. Today's question comes from username Diverse Kitty. How do you transfer your sheep? Is it possible to transport them in an enclosed utility trailer? I've either personally transported my sheep or had my sheep transported in 4 different ways. Those 4 different ways never included an enclosed utility trailer. Let's talk about that part of this first. Is it possible to transport them in an enclosed utility trailer? Is it possible? Yes. Should you do it? Probably not. And the variables at play here are going to be the time of year and the distance you have to travel. If you're going just a super short distance and it's relatively cool outside, you could probably get away with it. But if you have a long way to go and it's hot outside, this is not going to work for the animals because they need ventilation, they need cool air. It is not going to work for them. If you are going to use a utility trailer, it's best, of course, that it's not enclosed. There was a time that my sheep breeder Tess used a utility trailer to transport some sheep.
We got this trailer, it's good, the yellow bomb. We got this trailer from my friend Dave, and it's really the right kind of trailer for this weather, because my big trailer that I use for the livestock delivery, it would be hard pressed to turn around in this spot. We would have to move a lot of snow.
Right, we have too many snow berms for you to be able to maneuver.
So this is going to be really handy, and I've been using it to collect the little, the individual rams.
Do it again.
You're going to do it again? Go for it. Go! All right, perfect. See, we have it on a slant, and you've got a hold of the door. I probably wouldn't carry a horse in it, but for lambs and llamas and things like that.
So that utility trailer was one way that I've had my sheep transported. Number 2 is probably the most common way you see livestock transported, and that is on a livestock trailer. Brand new, these trailers are pretty expensive. You can find some deals on Craigslist on some used ones, however, they can still be a little bit on the spendy side. Also, you'll need a truck that's big enough to pull one of these trailers. So a full-size livestock trailer may not be the best option for homesteaders with just a few animals. That's a lot of expense that needs to go into that if you're just going to be running a few sheep around. A good alternative to a full-size livestock trailer is a 2-horse trailer. They're much smaller, there's a lot more of them usually that you find on Craigslist, and they're usually more affordable. They're perfect if you have just a couple pigs you need to move or a small flock of sheep. This is definitely one of the better solutions for the small homesteader. The number 3 way that I've transported sheep, and this is probably the one I recommend the least, but you gotta do what you gotta do, and that is moving sheep inside of a vehicle with you.
Look at the mess you made! Oh, you silly girl!
Pardon the pun, but this is kind of a crappy experience. The sheep, of course, during transport will defecate, will urinate. Usually that's something they do a little more of when they're nervous, and of course being in a moving vehicle makes them a little nervous. If you're just moving one small animal, say like a newborn calf, you can do what Justin Rhodes did in one of his recent videos where the calf was put in a small cage and was transported in the back of his Suburban.
Are you ready to come out? Well, let me tell you, there's some great grass out here. Oh, this is so nice. He's a sweetheart. Oh, come here, baby. Oh, do you want to take this? Oh, come on.
Number 4, the last way that I personally have moved livestock, and this is the method that I've used the most because it was most easy for me in my circumstances, and that was in a home-built livestock cage. This particular livestock cage was built by my friend David, and it was custom designed to fit in the bed of his pickup truck. It fits snug within the bed of the pickup truck. The length of it, of course, ideally would go right up to the tailgate, all the way up to the back of the cab. When David made that cage, he made it for a 5.5 foot truck bed. Mine is a 6.5 foot truck bed, so it doesn't quite fit flush all the way up to the tailgate on mine, but I just use spring hooks to latch the cage shut to make sure that the animals can't nudge the gate open. This option is certainly more affordable than getting a livestock trailer, and this is a really good alternative to the trailer if you only have a few animals that you're transporting a year. The materials are cattle panel and then just some metal wire that David coiled around the metal at the joints. I've also used this livestock cage to transport chickens before. When I was raising broiler chickens, I put them all in the bed of my truck, put the cage over it so they wouldn't go anywhere, and then drove them down the road to the lady who did the processing for me. The downside to using the livestock cage in the bed of the truck is the height of the bed of the pickup truck from the ground. Having only used it for chickens and sheep, it hasn't been too bad of an issue of getting the livestock in there. But if you're transporting more than a small lamb, you might need a little help hoisting a full-size sheep into the bed of the truck. One thing you definitely never want to do when transporting sheep in a pickup truck is transport them in the bed of the truck without any sort of enclosure. With those 4 out of the way, I'm actually going to give you guys a bonus. This one was not how I transported sheep, but how I transported my American guinea hog pigs. Let me show you what I did when I went to pick up my guinea hogs from the breeder. Now keep in mind, guinea hogs are pretty small, and I was able to use a dog crate and of course that cage that the breeder let me borrow and put them on the flat trailer, tied them down with ratchet straps. If you use something like the livestock cage that I use, you could probably put something like that on the trailer and make sure it's strapped down really well, but that's probably not going to be the ideal situation for you to move sheep. Alright guys, that wraps up this edition of Ask Dan. I hope this was helpful to you, Diverse Kitty, and of course anyone else looking to get into homesteading and wondering, how do I move my sheep? If you have any questions that you would like to see addressed on Ask Dan, send me an email, dan@grassfedhomestead.com, put in the subject line Ask Dan, and then put in your question and I will do my best to get you answers. Lastly, if you've gotten any value out of this video, please consider subscribing to the channel, liking this video, and sharing it with your friends. That would do a lot to help me. And with that, we're done. I look forward to seeing you guys next time right here on the Grass-Fed Homestead.